All right, if town meeting members would please take their seats. Just a reminder, the seats in the front of the auditorium at the tables are reserved for town meeting members. The seats in the rear of the auditorium for visitors and guests. At this time, would you all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you remain standing for just a moment, we can have a moment of silence for all of our troops here and around the world protecting our freedoms. Thank you. Please be seated. All right, our tellers for this evening are Mr. Rossetti from Precinct 2 and Ms. Hickman from Precinct 5. The tellers will please come forward to be sworn to their duties.
Do you swear to faithfully and impartially perform your duties as a teller for town meeting for the town of Saugus to the best of your abilities?
I do. Handles?
Not that I know of, not yet.
Okay, and the town clerk will now call the roll.
Bartolo. Bell. Berube. Brown. Camuso. Chaporis. Connors. Costello. Cottom. Cross. Curry. Davis. Delios. Doherty.
Here.
Dunn. Federico. Ferrari. Goodwin. Grabowski. Durant. Hickman. Kelly. Long. Lepresti. Manugian. McCarthy. McCullough. Meredith. Mareshi. O'Brien. Palashi called, he will not be here. Palumba. Panetta. Panico. Paolini. Parlente. Ravkanik. Ring. Rossetti. Sacco. Shenna. Scazzarella notified us she will be late today. Shelkowski. Spencer. Strasnick. Thompson. Travers. Wallace. Whitcomb will not be here today. Worthley. Total is 44 with 6 absent.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We do have a quorum. All right, if you would, put all cell phones and other electronic devices in silent mode. Members are reminded that the use of electronic devices during meetings is restricted to viewing documents or websites pertinent to the articles before us, and texting, gaming, or other uses are prohibited. The first order of business is accepting the minutes of the previous session. While I do have a copy of the minutes from the last meeting available if anyone needs to review them, since a copy is posted on the town website, and knowing that you're all diligent about reviewing them online, if there is no objection to the minutes of the last session being accepted by unanimous consent. Hearing none, the minutes are accepted as posted. When recognized to speak, all speakers are asked to step up to the podium. Town meeting members, please state your name and the precinct represented. Other town officers, just your name and position in the town, and citizens, state your name and address. This way everybody at home can see and identify with who they're hearing. We will be observing the appropriate time limits for speakers per Section 208 of the town bylaws. We have 16 articles remaining on our annual town warrant this year. 6 of those are zoning articles that we won't be able to act on until after the holiday. The planning board will be meeting on those this week. We do have recommendations from the Finance Committee on the remaining 8 financial articles, so hopefully we can get through all but the zoning articles this evening, but we'll see how the time goes. Just some housekeeping. If the night runs long, we'll interrupt for a restroom break, but of course, if anyone needs to use the facilities during the night, by all means do so. In the event of an alarm requiring us to evacuate, you can exit at the rear of the auditorium, go down the stairs, and make a U-turn out the front door. Or there's also a stairway through the doorway at my left, your right, that will take you out the side exit and out to Hamilton Street. Our next order of business tonight is to hear and act on the reports of committees, starting with the Finance Committee. Do we have a representative of the Finance Committee here this evening? Okay, seeing none. Are there any other committees that would like to report out at this time? None? All right, we don't have any old business before us, so with that, we can move on to the new business. Because of the way our articles are ordered, it's not necessarily always feasible to take them in order. As an example, we would have to take Article 13 and set the water rate before we can take Article 6 and appropriate money for water. We'd have to do both of those, obviously, before we do Article 2 and take up the budget. So at this time, I would entertain a motion that we take Article 13 out of order. We have a motion. Any second? Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? All right. As a courtesy to the Finance Committee, Ms. Shalkowski moves Article 13 for consideration, to see if the town will vote to increase water rates with all receipts to be held within the Water Enterprise Fund to be used exclusively for water enterprises, water maintenance, water debt and interest, and water improvement programs, or take any other action relative thereto. The Finance Committee's recommendation was that the town vote a 6% increase in the water rates for fiscal year 2025, with all receipts to be held in the Water Enterprise Fund to be used exclusively for water expense, water maintenance, water debt and interest, and water improvement programs. Do I have a second on Article 13? Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor of the Finance Committee's recommendation that the town vote a 6% increase in water rates for fiscal year 2025, with all receipts to be held in the Water Enterprise Fund to be used exclusively for water expense, water maintenance, water debt and interest, and water improvement programs, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, with that, I'm going to ask for since we do have some dissent, I'm going to ask for a roll call vote, if the clerk would call a roll. Again, this is for Article 13. All in favor of the Finance Committee's recommended 6% increase in the water rates. When the clerk calls your name, signify by saying yes. All opposed, signify by saying no.
Bartolo. No. Bell. Yes. Berube. Yes. Brown. No. Camuso. Yes. Chaporis. Connors.
Yes.
Costello.
Yes.
Cottom. Cross.
Yes.
Curry.
No.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
No.
No. That's okay. Davis.
Yes.
Delios. Doherty. Dunn.
Yes.
Federico. Ferrari.
Yes.
Goodwin.
Yes.
Grabowski.
Yes.
Herman Durant.
Yes.
Hickman.
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
Is that a yes? Lepresti.
Yes.
Manugian.
Yes.
McCarthy.
Yes.
McCullough.
Yes.
Mereshi. I'm sorry, Meredith.
Yes.
Mereshi.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Palashi. Palumba.
Yes.
Panetta.
Yes.
Panico.
Yes.
Paolini.
Yes.
Parlente.
Yes.
Ravkinick.
Yes.
Ring.
No.
Rossetti.
Yes.
Sacco.
Yes.
Shenna.
Yes.
Scazzarella. Shalkowski.
Yes.
Spencer.
Yes.
Strasnick.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Travers.
Yes.
Wallace.
Yes.
Whitcomb. Worthley.
Yes.
39 yeas, 4 nays, 6 absent.
Okay, Article 13 has passed. At this time, I would entertain a motion to take Articles 6 and 7 out of order. We have a motion, seconded? All right, any discussion? All in favor of taking Articles 6 and 7 out of order at this time, signify by saying aye. All opposed? As a courtesy to the Finance Committee, Ms. Shalkowski moves Article 6 for consideration to see what sum of money the town will vote to raise and appropriate for the Water Enterprise Fund for the ensuing fiscal year 2025. The Finance Committee's recommendation, they voted to recommend that the following sums be appropriated to operate the Water Enterprise Fund. $457,066 in salaries, $7,461,864 in expenses, $100,000 capital outlay, $679,720 in indirect costs, and $27,273 transfer out to other post-employment benefits, for a total fiscal year 25 Water Enterprise Fund appropriation of $8,725,923. $8,403,810 funded from the Water Enterprise Fund revenue, $322,113 to come from retained earnings, $679,720 is to be appropriated in the general fund funded by Water Enterprise Fund revenue for indirect costs. Do I have a second on Article 6? All right, Article 6 moved and seconded. Any discussion? Mr. Manager.
Good evening, Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to briefly talk about 6 and 7. Obviously, we're taking up 6. These are the actual operating budgets within the enterprise accounts. The thing that we're doing, I think that hopefully some of you have gotten to watch the Finance Committee meetings where we, and the Selectmen's meeting where we go over in depth the analysis. I know it's online and you've been provided copies and that lay out capital improvements, operational costs, increases from MWRA or Lynn Water and Sewer that are estimated and projected. You know, one of the big things I think that people, especially residents and town meeting members, should understand is that we're doing quite a bit of capital, and we've been doing that, and that's what preventive maintenance from emergencies. Water and sewer is extremely important. We're doing a meter replacement program that's extremely important. The meters are about 17 years old. Generally have a useful life for about 10 years, and that's something that's much needed. It's about a $7 to $8 million project that we're in the process now over the next 18 months. We have consultants and engineers on board. It's quite a bit of bandwidth for us. Wendy, myself, and others within the town working on that. But that's not being funded or impacted in these enterprise accounts. So that is I think a huge benefit for the ratepayers. So people should understand that we're using the ARPA money that was awarded to the town to offset that and pay for the total cost. So if we weren't able to do that, this is a must. It's not a when. It's where, you know, in the process of doing this, we've just had a great opportunity that presented itself with the ARPA money that came from the federal government, and this is a project we're doing, and I think people should understand that and hopefully appreciate that the impact of the $7 million project is not going to hit water and sewer, and so I just wanted to kind of let everybody know that and understand that. But in that packet, like we do with everything, we have master plans and capital improvement plans that we put together and attack things year by year. We have projections out for 5 years. Those obviously can change and things can change, but this is the actual operating budget based on that rate, the increase that we looked at. So I hope you support it, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Okay, any further discussion on Article 6? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All in favor of the Finance Committee's recommendation to appropriate $8,725,923 for total fiscal year 25 Water Enterprise Fund appropriation $457,066 in salaries, $7,461,864 in expenses, $100,000 capital outlay, $679,720 indirect costs, and $27,273 transferred out to OPEB. $8,403,810 funded from Water Enterprise Fund revenue, $322,113 to come from retained earnings, $679,720 to be appropriated in the general fund, funded by Water Enterprise Fund revenue for indirect costs. All in favor of Article 6 recommendation as stated, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Article 6 passes. As a courtesy to the Finance Committee. Yes. Okay. Madam Clerk? Okay, we have a member who wishes to post reconsideration of Article 23. A member from Precinct 10. Town Clerk, I'm sorry, Madam Clerk, have we verified that this precinct member voted?
Yes, he voted yes on Article 23.
Okay, so he voted yes on Article 3 and is moving for posting a notice for reconsideration. So that's in the record. It's currently 7:47 p.m. Yes. What's that? It's 7:47 right now that's going in. We opened the meeting at 7:30, so we're 17 minutes into the meeting. Madam Clerk?
Yes.
The vote on Article 23.
Yes.
How much time was remaining in last week's meeting when
The
that?
roll call vote was at 7:06. We adjourned the meeting, I'm sorry, the roll call vote was at 10:06. We adjourned the meeting at 10:12.
So there was 6 minutes after the vote at the last meeting, and we're 17 minutes into this meeting. So that would put it within the time limit.
When he made the call for the reconsideration, it was 7:46.
Moderator, people can speak at the podium. Can't hear me. Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Yeah,
First of all, for the minutes, the vote was taken at 19:30.
yeah, if you would, Frank, approach the podium, just so the folks here and also the folks at home can hear this. You're looking at the, go ahead.
Per the minutes that were just accepted, the vote happened at 9:23, the initial vote. And that was,
The initial vote, not there were two votes, if you recall. There was an initial vote, and then there was a roll call vote.
and I believe Robert's rule says from the initial vote, not the roll call, correct?
Yeah. Okay.
The bylaw doesn't, it states 30 minutes for notification and 1 hour for reconsideration. But it doesn't state if it's 30 minutes from the initial vote or the second vote, the roll call vote.
It's the final vote that's
All right.
being reconsidered,
That's fair.
so. So it is within the time limit, so we will bring that up. But at the moment, we're in the middle, yep. In regards to, we're not taking up the reconsideration at this point. not debating the reconsideration, we're just, a motion has been made, that, I mean, a notice has been made that he's calling for reconsideration so that he could get that within the time limit. That's all that's happened right now. We will bring that up, and you will have an opportunity to discuss it. All right. As a courtesy to the Finance Committee, as we were saying, Ms. Shalkowski moves Article 7 for consideration to see what sum of money the town will vote to raise and appropriate for the Sewer Enterprise Fund for the ensuing fiscal year 2025. The Finance Committee recommended that the following sums be appropriated to operate the Sewer Enterprise Fund. $383,170 in salaries, $5,169,640 expenses, $80,000 capital outlay, $644,837 in indirect cost, $56,696 transfer out of other post-employee benefits, for a total of $6,334,343 Sewer Enterprise Fund appropriation for fiscal year 25. $6,334,343 of that funded from the Sewer Enterprise Fund revenue, $0 to come from retained earnings, $644,837 to be appropriated in the general fund funded by Sewer Enterprise Fund revenue for indirect costs. Do I have a second on Article 7? All right, Article 7 moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll call for the question. All in favor of the Finance Committee's recommendation to appropriate for fiscal year 25 Sewer Enterprise Fund, $6,334,343, $383,170 in salaries, $5,169,640 expenses, $80,000 capital outlay, $644,837 in indirect cost, and $56,696 transfer out of OPEB. With $6,334,343 funded from the Sewer Enterprise Fund revenue, nothing from retained earnings, $644,837 to be appropriated in the general fund funded by Sewer Enterprise Fund revenue for indirect costs. All in favor of the Finance Committee's recommendation on Article 7 as just stated, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Article 7 is passed. Yes. Yeah. Right. Yes. Yep. Right. Yep. Okay, we will revert back to our regular order of business at this point, and we've got Article 2. Mr. Manoogian, just a note, I know you put in that you wish to post for reconsideration on Article 23, okay, but that's not the same as making a motion for the same, you understand that, right? That's not the same as making a motion for reconsideration. That's something that would have to be done within an hour of the vote that's being reconsidered, so you're aware.
Make that motion.
All right, we have a motion from Mr. Manoogian to reconsider Article 23. Do I have a second? All right, Article, that's moved and seconded.
Is it debatable, Mr. Roberts?
Yes, it is debatable.
Moderator, ladies and gentlemen, Peter Manoogian, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 10. You know, as a former civic teacher, when I saw the word civic engagement, that excited me. As my colleague beside me, we had that conversation. However, upon reviewing the article when I got home, there were some things that concerned me. Most in particular, the fact that this body was divided on it. The vote was 21-20 with 2 abstentions. I feel that any committee that's going to engage the public and be representative of town meeting should have a unanimous vote or a near unanimous vote to have that type of authority that is necessary for the public to take it seriously. There's language in the article that says to make recommendations. It doesn't say who to make recommendations to or on what? Another confusing feature of the article says bi-monthly meetings. Well, if you look up bi-monthly in Dr. Google, it can either be twice a month or every other month. I'm not sure what it means, whether the meetings would be twice a month or every other month. It says plural educational forums that there'd be one forum before the annual town meeting, but at the beginning of the article it says educational forums, plural. It's not clear as to whether or not there should be multiple forums at the beginning or just one before the annual town meeting. You know, the town meeting has in the past, and the moderator usually appoints a sidewalk committee. I don't think there's 10 people on that. And we don't have a sidewalk committee, and last year I don't know that they met or presented any report to town meeting. There's also a bylaw for an audit committee that doesn't exist. The last thing I want to do is create something that is going to go by the wayside and just die on the vine. I'm not out to stop the idea. I like the idea. I just think that there's ways, as my colleague from Precinct 9 expressed, there's ways to do it. In particular, you know, we did have some, I thought, very successful forums with more than 10 town meeting members showed up. And I would, if the motion to reconsider passes, I would offer a motion to refer the article to the next annual town meeting with the understanding that there would be some forums in the library to the citizenry similar to what we had, and I'd be willing to work with the maker of the article to bring those about. I'm just concerned that town meeting is divided on this, and that sends the wrong message. So that's why I made the motion to reconsider. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Menuchyan. Discussion? Yes. Mr. Palante.
Good evening. I understand that there may be some confusing language in the article. I make no excuse for being a first-time member and the language in the article. The article is for the residents. I understand what my counterpart from Precinct 10 has said about the hall being divided. I simply see that as politics. At the end of the day, this is about the community. My initiative and intention behind creating this committee was to, in an official capacity, have an outreach committee to go out and engage with the community, to try to do something different around here, try to create more people wanting to be involved in this town. Not necessarily politics, more like a community. You know, people fought to keep this, to keep Saugus a town. I just want to see it feel like a town. And the idea behind this community engagement committee was to try to create that by having a table at Founder's Day and one forum like the ones that we had. It might say plural in the beginning, but I do mention one educational forum. You know, I ask that you vote to have this committee formed like we did twice last week. And I can appreciate and respect the concerns that my counterpart has from Precinct 10, but again, this is simply for the residents. Nothing is binding. There's no money associated with this, and it's 10 volunteers. So if you don't want to be a part of the committee, don't be a part of the committee. Volunteer to be part of the committee and create something different. Try to create some engagement in this community. We had less than 25% of voters show up. I'd like to see that increase. I would like to see more people going out and voting. And this could be a way to create that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Palante. Any further discussion on the motion for reconsideration on Article 23? Okay, seeing none, at this time I will ask the clerk to call the roll. In this case, a yes vote is, and understand this before you vote, a yes vote on this motion means that we are reconsidering or calling back the vote that was made last week. So a yes vote is not in favor of the committee. A no vote is in favor of not reconsidering and leaving the committee as it was voted last week. Does everyone understand that? What?
Moderators, I think the left has, if I may ask the town council. It's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, either yourself or the town council, that if the reconsideration passes, that means the article starts all over again, and that it's not dead. It's not my intention to kill it. It's my intention to refer it to the next annual and to have some forums that are not mandatory, but that I would collaborate with the maker of the article. I'm not trying to end civic engagement. I just want, am I correct?
Mr. Manoogian, thank you, and I apologize. I misspoke. In this case, a yes vote for reconsideration puts Article 23 back on the floor for discussion and a final adjudication, which could include amendments, referrals, or anything else that might happen with it. A no vote on reconsideration lets the vote of last week stand, and Article 23 has passed, as it did last week. So a yes vote puts it back on the floor for discussion. A no vote leaves it as passed. All right? And I will ask the clerk to call the roll.
Bartolo. Bartolo. Bell. Berube. Brown. Camuso. Chaporis. Connors. Costello. Cottam. Cross. Curry. Davis. Delios. Doherty. Dunn. Federico. Ferrari. Goodwin. Grabowski. Herman Durant. Hickman. Kelly. Long. Lepresti. Manoogian. McCarthy. McCullough. Meredith. Mareshi. O'Brien. Paleshi. Palumba. Panetta. Panico. Paolini. Palante. Rafkinik. Ring. Rossetti. Sacco. Shenna. Scazzarella. Shelkowski. Spencer. Strasnick. Thompson. Travers. Wallace. Whitcomb. Worthley. 28 yeas, 15 nays, 6 absent.
So 28 to 16, the motion for reconsideration has passed. So at this point, Article 23 is back before us for discussion. So do we have any discussion on Article 23 as it was presented? Mr. Palante?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. If the body so pleases, I will amend the article to clean up the language to state clearly and relieve the concerns of my counterpart in Precinct 10. And if I'm not mistaken, that's something I can do right now, Mr. Moderator?
You'd have to submit the amendment in writing to the clerk, but yes, you could do that now.
Okay.
Mr. Manoogian?
Moderator, I think before I make a motion to table this, I would like to have the opportunity to sit down with the member from Precinct 2, and we're going to be back next week. So I'd like to have the opportunity, if it's, to sit with him and go over my ideas as a former civic teacher, and not to stifle the enthusiasm that you bring forth. I want to get a big vote from town meeting to support something that is going to engage the public. So I would like to make a motion to table this at this time, with the understanding that next week, I sit down with him and go over this.
We have a motion to table Article 23 to the next meeting, which would be the first Monday in June, to bring it up at that time for discussion. Do I have a second on that motion? All right, any discussion? All in favor of tabling Article 23 until the next session, which would be, again, the June 3rd, the first Monday in June, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Article 23 is tabled. As a courtesy to the Finance Committee, Ms. Shalkowski moves Article 2 for consideration. To see what sum of money the town will vote to raise and appropriate for town charges for the ensuing fiscal year 2025. The recommendation of the Finance Committee is to recommend a sum of $113,127,801 for town charges for the ensuing fiscal year 2025. And we're going to go through, and I'll give you the breakdown on those charges by department, but the bottom line is the total municipal departments is $24,566,424 in salaries, $54,792,842 in expenses, for a total of $79,359,266. And a school department operating budget of $33,768,535 to again come to the total of $113,127,801. Source of funding to be provided from the tax levy, local aid, and local estimated receipts. Do I have a second on Article 2? Article 2, moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go through the departments, and on each department I'm going to read the salary item, the expense item, and then the total budget for that department. And I'm just going to start with the page 1 and work my way right through the budget till I get to the end of it. If there's a particular item that someone has a question on, or you'd like to discuss or debate, when I call out that department, just yell hold. We'll make a little star next to it, and then after we get through everything, we'll go back, discuss those items, and then we'll vote on we're not going to be voting by department on the budget. We'll vote for the entire budget as one item. But if you want to discuss a particular department, we can certainly do that. So, Board of Selectmen, salaries, $56,572.80. Expenses, $6,075. Total, $62,647.80. Town manager, $543,511.75. Salaries, expenses, $518,200. Total, $1,061,711.75. Finance Committee, salaries, $5,000. Expenses, $100,000. Total, $105,000. Accounting, salaries, $545,200.76. Expenses, $140,000. Total, $685,200.76. Assessor's Office, salaries, $264,538.76. Expenses, $213,825. Total, $478,363.76. Treasurer Collector, salaries, $443,836.79. Expenses, $145,225. Total, $589,061.79. Legal counsel, salary, $73,388.83. Expenses, $776,500. Total, $849,888.83. Human Resources, salaries, $278,002.17. Expenses, $47,250. Total, $325,252.17. Information Technology, salary, 0. Expenses, $467,500. Total, $467,500. Town Clerk, salaries, $173,078.18. Expenses, $14,300. Total, $187,378.18. Election and Registration, salary, $152,073.37. Expenses, $51,395. Total, $203,468.37. Conservation Commission, salary, $61,442.17. Expenses, $3,270. Total, $64,712.17. Planning Board, salaries, $42,105.13. Expenses, $11,630. Total, $53,735.13. Board of Appeals, salary, $32,420.66. Expenses, $7,700. Total, $40,120.66. Planning and Economic Development, salaries, $222,592.94. Expenses, $46,320. Total, $268,912.94. Police Department, salaries, $9,026,763.69. Expenses, $545,705. Total, $9,572,468.69. Fire Department, salaries, $6,536,341.77. Expenses, $439,400. Total, $6,975,741.77. Code Enforcement, Building, salary, $322,283. Expenses, $22,700. Total, $344,983. Code Enforcement, Gas and Plumbing, salaries, $85,811.72. Expenses, $3,500. Total, $89,311.72. Code Enforcement, Weights and Measures, salary, $14,359.81. Expenses, $1,550. Total, $15,909.81. Electrical Inspection, salary, $104,977.84. Expenses, $3,000. Total, $107,977.84. Emergency Management, salary, $15,000. Expenses, $15,000. Total, $30,000. Animal Control, salary, $122,428.47. Expenses, $6,250. Total, $128,678.47. Harbor Master, salary, 0. Expenses, $5,000. Total, $5,000. Dispatcher, salary, $952,445.07. Expenses, $10,000. Total, $962,445.07. Regional School Assessment, salary, 0. Expenses, $3,725,879. Total, $3,725,879. Department of Public Works, salary, $1,768,376.60. Expenses, $5,387,650. Total, $7,156,026.60. And this is a breakdown of that. DPW Administration, salary, $470,545.47. Administration expenses, $8,800 for a total $479,345.47. DPW Forestry, salaries $223,797.81. Expenses $106,000, total $329,797.81. DPW Highway, salaries $350,395.59. Expenses $840,500, total $1,190,895.59. DPW Snow and Ice, salaries $20,000, expenses $165,000. What's up? Hold on, Snow and Ice, okay, we'll come back to that. Total $185,000. DPW Motor Pool, $88,240.86 for salaries, expenses $286,800, total $375,040.86. DPW Street Lighting, salary $0, expenses $670,000, total $670,000. DPW Waste Collection, salary $170,884.23, expenses $2,757,300, total $2,928,184.23. DPW Cemetery, salary $251,225.85, expenses $33,250 for a total of $284,475.85. DPW Parks, salary $193,286.79, expenses $445,000, total $638,286.79. DPW Capital, $0 salary, expenses $75,000, total $75,000. Engineering Department, salary $318,990.18, expenses $46,450, and total $365,440.18. Facilities Department, salary $760,368.85, expenses $1,133,030, total $1,893,398.85. Facilities Department Capital, salary $0, expense $500,000, total $500,000. Health Department, salaries $483,347.82, expenses $42,400, total $480,747.82. Council on Aging, salaries $316,706.06, expenses $0, total $316,706.06. Veteran Services, salaries $29,321.16, expenses $266,990, total $296,311.16. Library, salary $717,737.05, expenses $191,033, total $908,770.05. Youth and Recreation, salary $136,987.96, expense $15,600, total $152,587.96. Lobsterman's Landing, salary $5,412.66, expense $12,200, total $17,612.66. Celebrations, $0 salary, expense $2,000, total $2,000. Debt service, principal, no salary, expense $5,125,600. Total again, $5,125,600. Debt service interest, again, no salary, expense of $4,547,520, total $4,547,520. Employee benefits, no salary, expense $24,916,075, total $24,916,075. And other insurance, no salary expense, $1,879,875 for a total $1,879,875. Transfers, other financial sources, again, no salary, expense of $3,399,245 for a total $3,399,245. Total municipal departments, salary $24,566,420. Expense $54,792,842 for a total of $79,359,266. School department operating budget $33,768,538 for total town charges for fiscal year 2025, $113,127,801. Yes, I'm sorry? We had a hold that came up on DPW, snow and ice. Salary $20,000, expenses $165,000. We have some discussion, Mr. Costello? No, I don't believe so.
Martin Costello, Precinct 10. Like anything, people try to live on a budget, try to make their bills payable and so forth, so on. And sometimes things work out where you didn't have as much of an expense as you thought you might. I think I brought this up once before, but I think I'd like to have the town manager clarify it for us if he could. In years past, as opposed to this fiscal year now, did we save any money with regard to the cost of snow and ice this year? And if we did, are we going to be able to do anything with any money that we might have saved by that? Or are we just going to go status quo? Because, as we all know, we did not have a very severe winter. So I was hopeful that we might have some extra money in the kitty and that we could put elsewhere if we didn't have to spend as much money on snow and ice. Mr. Town Manager.
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, ladies and gentlemen. There's a lot of information there, a few different questions, so it'll give me a few minutes to kind of explain so that people get a better understanding. And it's actually a really good question because one of the things that we do is we budget, as you can see here, and we have for quite a while, $185,000. We clearly spend more than that in the fiscal year, even when there's I guess, very few snow and ice. I wouldn't say very few, but less than what we're used to a historical New England winter. So if you remember last week, or maybe the week before, we voted in an Article 3, and we used certified free cash to pay for the what we incurred for expenses, which was above and beyond the $185,000 budgeted amount in this fiscal budget. And we budgeted, we transferred, I believe it was $364,000. $364,000 was interdepartmental, and the snow and ice was $555, somewhere around $555 that we took from free cash and paid what we expended. So our total expenditures over what we budgeted was another $550 some odd thousand. And I think what I explained before, and I've explained that at the Finance Committee quite a few times, and it's a good question, is that we budget $185,000 because if we budgeted, let's say, $1 million, and we didn't use $1 million, we'd have to draw that from the operational budget. And then there'd be excess money there. If we budgeted $2 million, that ties up $2 million of the monies. So one of the techniques that managers and administrators throughout the state use is to pay for it with the certified free cash to make sure we can pay within the year we expended it. And the reason we do that is because if we did run into a problem, the Department of Revenue allows for what they call they don't allow deficits, right? They're illegal. But with snow and ice, they allow what they call a legal deficit. So you're able to carry over that expense if you had to when you had a tough year and raise it in the next fiscal year. Like, in other words, you'd have to make cuts to pay. You'd have to pay for that snow and ice, that 500 and some odd $1,000 in this fiscal budget. Before we set our budget, we'd owe 500 and something $1,000, which is allowed by the DOR. What we do in the practice since I've been here with the finance team is that we pay for the snow and ice expense that we incur in the year that we incurred it. And we did that a couple weeks ago. And for town meeting members that have been around for quite a while, they can remember that they would have $1 million deficits that they would legally carry over. So then you go into the next budget saying, okay, it's a new fiscal year, let's get going, we're gonna put a budget together. They owe $1 million before they could even get the budget started. So it'd be $1 million in legal deficit going into the next fiscal year. So with all that said, I'm just trying to explain that the other thing that I think people should understand is that we haven't had a severe winter. And when we do, all the prices and all the supplies have still gone crazy money-wise, haywire, the increases. So we can expect that we'll be no more, a heavy winter would be $1 million, $1.5 million. You'd probably be in the $3 million range for a legitimate New England winter that we haven't had in many years. So that's even more important to make sure that we have that capacity and free cash within the fiscal year to be able to allocate that to pay for the expense within the year that we incur the expense. So I hopefully that answers the question. We budget low because they allow us to, so it doesn't tie up the money, and we look at using free cash to pay for anything that's above and beyond that, what we've budgeted. So again, we're budgeting $185,000. It's just a number that we came up with. I think we increased it a few years back, but again, I would, like you talked about, I would expect when we have a New England winter, it's going to be quite more expensive. And for people that say, well, it didn't snow at all, there's still snow and ice events that happen in the middle of the night when we have black ice, the salt, getting the trucks up and running, maintenance, all those different things that go on with the trucks breaking down and getting ready. There's quite a bit of an expense just to deal with snow and ice events that happen even if we don't receive any snow. Hopefully that helps answer that question, but thank you for that. I think it's a great opportunity to explain some of these things.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Any further discussion on the snow and ice line item? Okay, hearing none. Was there another hold over here? Mr. Okay, on the school department? Do we have any discussion?
Mr. Moderator, fellow town meeting members, up on the podium.
If you would just
Arthur
introduce yourself
Grabowski,
to the folks at home.
Precinct 8. Up on the podium tonight, we all had access to this large compendium of information. If you read through it, it's very detailed. It's very detailed on the water and sewer accounts. It includes all the reasoning behind it. It includes how and why it should be the way it is. Complete analysis here. We've also had meetings with the town manager for any town meeting member that wanted to attend to ask questions. And I attended 3 of those meetings. You get down into the weeds with the town manager or the articles, especially the spending articles. You can ask specific questions to answer anything you come up with. It's not general information. Now, this is the town budget. Where's the school budget? We have nothing. We have no handouts. We have nothing to make a decision on. We're asked to spend $33 million. And I realize that the school budget is a bottom line budget. We cannot tell them how to spend their money, but we certainly can be told and informed as to how the money is going to be spent. And I would ask that this school budget be tabled until the first meeting in June so we could get that information. We have a school department that has not had a stellar record over the past years. So we're being asked to just give you $33 million and say, well, here you go, folks. Do what you can with it and go from there. I think that's wrong. this is the only appropriating authority in the town. There is no department, there is no anything in this town cannot spend a penny. Even the town manager cannot spend a penny unless it's appropriated by this town meeting. And I believe this town meeting, by the questions and the people that are here, are very cognizant of asking for information. And again, I would make a motion to table the school budget until the first meeting in June, so that we can get this information given to us.
Okay, we have a motion before us to table the school department portion of the budget until the first meeting in June. Any discussion on that motion? Mr. Manugian? If you would approach, Mr. Manugian, if you would just come up to the microphone so the folks at home can be. You withdraw the motion to table it? Okay.
Mr. Moderator, ladies and gentlemen, as you know, both Arthur and I served on the school committee, and for several years we saw increases of 500,000, and you know, we thought that we were being shortchanged at the time. This year, the town manager originally recommended, I believe, 1 million, and that, but it went to 1.5, and now you're over 2 million. This budget has now changed to give them over 2 million. That's huge. It's a great increase over what's happened in previous years. It was always like 500, 500, 500. In fact, in the last 20 years, I can't think of an increase that's been as significant. On top of the 500,000 that we did for the student support relief fund that they came in with a plan for. I agree with my colleague from Precinct 8. There is no school budget. You should have one. Saugus Public Schools were just ranked by U.S. News and World Report as 273 out of 316. That's 86% of the districts in Massachusetts outpace Saugus on the measures, the metrics they use, college acceptance scores and so forth. We know, we hear it all the time about the lack of substitute teachers. Is any of that $2 million going to go towards preventing kids from having to languish in the cafeteria, as we know they are? What about buses? We hear all the time about buses, and we see the traffic up there. Will any of that $2 million go to adding buses? Sports user fees, we hear about that. Will any of that money go towards sports user fees? You have a right to know. Your constituents have a right to know. What about open house? They canceled open house and made it so that it's during the day when parents can't get there. Will any of that money be used to change that so that parents can go back to having an evening open house? Are all the contracts settled? There was a provision in the last contract that if new money came available, the contracts would be opened. Does that provision apply to this money? Fifth grade class, there was a fifth grade class that a teacher, I believe, was promoted into a quasi-administrative position. Did they hire another teacher? No. They merged the classes together and raised the class, the amount of kids in the class. Is any of this money going to be used to bring back another fifth grade teacher? English as a second language, we're getting killed on that. Is any of this money going to be used for that? So I think that a motion to table, and I'm not making it at this point, is appropriate, because they should be compelled to come to this town meeting and hand each of you a budget that says what's in the budget. I see several members of the school department are here. We should have a budget. We've gotten away from traditions. Finance committee, we don't see them anymore. Now, this is the second year in a row that there's no school budget. What are we doing? This is the most important department in the town. And you don't know it until someone calls you up and says they're looking for a house in Saugus. They're looking for a house, and, oh, I got one. Oh, their schools are lousy. I've heard that. And it breaks my heart after we spent all that money on that new school system and so forth. So I would ask that clarification be given, that they come before us with a budget, get us the budget before the next meeting, show us how you're gonna spend the money, how are you gonna address these chronic issues that we've heard so much about. It's a reasonable request.
Any further discussion on the school department budget? Yes. If you would, just state your name and position for the folks at home, and the floor is yours.
John Hatch, 6 Morris Place, Saugus School Committee. There's a couple of things. I too have served on this committee for a long time, served in town meeting with you folks, understand the traditions. I just like to point out a couple of things. We had several budget hearings at our school committee meetings. We've been before town FinCom and presented our budget. Our budget is online, and everybody has access to it. I understand the questions that were brought before you. However, for the past, since February, we've talked about our budget. We have had budget hearings, and we see 4 or 5 people at our school committee meetings every other week. The information is there, it's not being hidden from you, and we've been through the process with FinCom like every other department. Our budget is accessible online and has been at our school committee meeting. So to say that you don't have it is incorrect. To say we haven't presented it is incorrect. To say we haven't talked about it is incorrect. I appreciate the camaraderie and the collaboration that we've had with the town over the past 4 years. It's been vital because of what we've been through, especially with the town's demographic changing and bringing these kids out and through COVID. The cost to educate our children has skyrocketed. So, I don't understand people saying that they don't have access to the budget because it's been there. We've been through hearings, we've been to FinCom, and we've had our own budget hearings. We talk about it at the school department. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any further discussion on the school committee budget? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to call the question. All in favor of the Finance Committee's recommendation to appropriate for total municipal departments $24,566,424 in salaries, $54,792,842 expenses, for a total of $79,359,266. For the school department operating budget, $33,768,535 for total town charges for fiscal year '25, $113,127,801, with the source of funding to be provided from the tax levy, local aid, and local estimated receipts. Please signify by, all in favor, yes.
To table the school budget so that they could come in and answer these questions as to how they're going to use the money.
All right, we have a motion to table the school department portion of the budget until they can come in and answer these questions. What exactly is it we're looking for, so we can...
Moderator, it's my friend on the school committee who pointed out we've had access to it. Can you imagine if the town manager said, you've got access to all these documents? I don't think you'd be very happy. How hard would it be for them to press the send button on that budget that we have access to? They don't. Did anyone get it in an email? I didn't. So I think it's reasonable, but in particular, since the Finance Committee just voted to add another $600,000 to this budget, and it's over $2 million since they had their hearings. Are the students going to be herded to the cafeteria like they have been? We hear it all the time. Buses, fees, open house, contracts, are they settled? Are they going to be reopened? Fifth grade class, ESL. Reasonable things to ask of a $34 million budget proposal. All they have to do is get us a budget, answer these questions. It's reasonable to ask.
Okay, any further discussion on the motion to table the school committee portion of the operating budget? Yes, Mr. Haslam. A motion? Town council? Hold on one second, Mr. Hack. What? Yes. It's not debatable. Okay. All right, I'm sorry, the motion to table is not debatable, so we have a motion before us. All in favor of the motion to table the school department portion of the budget. When the town clerk calls your name, please signify by saying aye. And Ellen, I would ask you to call the roll. All opposed, say no.
Okay, roll call vote.
Yeah.
1 second, I'm getting there. Bartolo. Bell. Berube. Brown. Pamuso. Yes is to table it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, a yes vote is to table the school department portion of the budget so that they can come before us in 2 weeks. A no vote is to not table it and proceed with a vote.
Okay. Japoris. Connors. Costello. Cottam. Cross. Curry. Davis. Delios. Doherty. Dunn. Federico. Ferrari. Goodwin. Grabowski. Herman Durant. Hickman. Kelly. Long. Lepresti. Manugian. McCarthy. McCullough. Meredith. Mareshi. O'Brien. Paleshi. Palumba. Panetta. Panico. Paolini. Parlente. Rakinnick. Ring. Rossetti. Sacco. Shenna. Scazzarella. Shelkowski. Spencer. Strasnick. Thompson. Travers. Wallace. Whitcomb. Worthley. Yeas are 13, nays are 30, and absent is 5.
So the motion to table has failed. So at this time, I will call the question. All in favor of the combined budget proposed by the Finance Committee of $113,127,801 with the source of funding to be provided from the tax levy, local aid, and local estimated receipts, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, the budget is passed. Article 2 is passed. All right. As a courtesy to the Finance Committee, Ms. Shalkowski moves Article 17 for consideration, to see if the town will vote to appropriate a sum of money from the PEG Access Enterprise Fund for the purpose of funding the operating budget of the PEG Access Studio Facility in Saugus for the fiscal year 2025. Said funds to be distributed under the authority and direction of the Board of Selectmen as they see fit pursuant to the current cable television renewal license agreement and the current agreement between the town and its designee, a PEG Access Corporation. The Finance Committee recommended the town appropriate the sum of $294,700 for the purpose of funding the operating budget of the PEG Access Studio Facility in Saugus for the fiscal year 2025, with the source of funding being the PEG Access Enterprise Fund revenue received under the current cable television renewal agreement held in the PEG Access Enterprise Fund. Do I have a second on Article 17? Article 17 moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor of the Finance Committee's recommendation to appropriate a sum of money from the $294,700 for the purpose of funding the operating budget of the PEG Access Studio Facility in Saugus for the coming fiscal year. The source of funding is the PEG Access Enterprise Fund revenue received under current cable television renewal agreement held in the PEG Access Enterprise Fund. All in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed? Article 17 has passed. As a courtesy to the Finance Committee, one sec. Ms. Shalkowski moves Article 19 for consideration, to see if Saugus Town Meeting will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds the sum of $15,000 to the Saugus Historical Commission for the purpose of hiring an historic preservation consultant to prepare nominations for placing the Roby School, the Center School, Town Hall Annex, and the Old Town Hall, the Procopio American Legion Building in Saugus Center, and the Cliftondale School, Meg Building in Cliftondale on the National Register of Historical Places. The Historical Commission will work with the town manager to expend these funds to accomplish this purpose. The Finance Committee's recommendation was to refer Article 19 back to the original maker. Speaking with the maker of the article, they're also in concurrence to have it referred back for rewording, possible resubmission at a later time. Do I have a second on Article 19? All right, moved and seconded. Any discussion? Mr. Rossetti?
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, listed in this listing is the Meg Building, Cliftondale School. Cliftondale School has had renovations done to it, a fairly large number of renovations, and there are plans to do considerably more renovations to it. I believe that creates a problem putting it on the historic register.
Mr. Rossetti? I'm sorry, we're not actually debating Article 19, we're debating the Finance Committee's recommendation to refer it back to the maker. The Finance Committee has made a recommendation to refer Article 19 back to the maker. So that's what we're debating at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion on the Finance Committee's recommendation to refer Article 19? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of the recommendation to refer that back to the maker, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Article 19 is referred. As a courtesy to the Finance Committee, Ms. Shalkowski moves Article 20 for consideration, to see if Saugus Town Meeting will vote to appropriate $200,000 from the General Stabilization Fund for a 2-year SRO, Student Resource Officer pilot program. This appropriation will fund salaries and benefits for the office for a finite period of 2 years, and no money shall be appropriated further without town meeting approval. The Finance Committee recommendation was to refer Article 20 back to the original maker of the article. Do I have a second on the Finance Committee's recommendation? Seconded. Any discussion on the Finance Committee's recommendation? Yes, Mr. Palante.
Matthew Palante, Precinct 2. I request that the body doesn't return this article to me, allowing me to amend it to a one-year pilot program instead of 2. The Finance Committee only referred it back to me because it was written for 2 years, which they can't approve funding for. Let's not let my oversight delay the vote on this crucial issue. Students, staff, and parents shouldn't have to wait any longer because of my mistake. I put a lot of effort into my presentation, and I hope for the opportunity to share it with you all tonight. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the Finance Committee's recommendation? Okay, hearing none, we'll take a vote. All in favor of the Finance Committee's recommendation to refer Article 20 back to the maker, yes. No. He can't amend the article because we're not debating the article. Right now, we're debating what's before us is the Finance Committee's recommendation. If the recommendation to refer it back to the maker fails, then at that point, we're discussing the original article, which could be amended and we can vote on it. If the recommendation to refer it back passes, then it's referred back. Again, we're going to take, all in favor of the Finance Committee's recommendation to refer Article 20 back to the maker, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? No. All right, and Madam Clerk, I'm going to ask for a roll call vote, just so we're clear on Article 20. Thank you. A yes vote would send it back to the maker to be presented at a later time. A no vote puts Article 20 back before us for discussion and a vote or amendments or whatever you see fit.
Bartolo. Bell. Berube. Brown. Camuso. Chaporis. Connors. Costello. Cottom. Cross. Curry. Davis. Delios. Doherty. Dunn. Federico. Ferrari. Goodwin. Grabowski. Herman Durant. Hickman. Kelly. Long. Lepresti. Manugian. McCarthy. McCullough. Meredith. Mareshi. O'Brien. Paleshi. Palumba. Panetta. Panico. Paolini. Polente. Ravkanik. Ring. Rossetti. Sacco. Shenna. Scazzarella. Shelkowski. Spencer. Strasnick. Thompson. Travers. Wallace. Whitcomb. Worthley. 25 yeas, 19 nays, 5 absent.
Okay, so with that, Article 20 is referred back to the maker. As a courtesy to the Finance Committee, Ms. Shelkowski moves Article 21 for consideration. To see if town meeting will vote to appropriate $100,000 from the General Stabilization Fund for 80 two-way radios, walkies, for all three school buildings, submitted by town meeting member Precinct 2, Matt Palante. Again, the Finance Committee's recommendation on Article 21 was to refer it back to the original maker of the article. Do I have a second? All right, moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to refer Article 21 back to the maker? Seeing none, we'll call the roll, call for the vote. All in favor? I'm sorry? They did at the time, yes. We don't have someone here, unfortunately, from FinCom to report out on that. Mr. Palante, you might be able to enlighten them. You have it.
Matthew Palante, Precinct 2. It was referred back to me, it was in connection to the SRO article, the 2-year funding. These radios were for the school administration to communicate with themselves as well as the police department that would work with the SRO program. So they referred it back to me.
Thank you, Mr. Palante. Any further discussion on the Finance Committee's recommendation for Article 21? I'm sorry. Yes, Article 21. None? I'll call the question. All in favor of the Finance Committee's recommendation to refer Article 21 back to the original maker, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Article 21 is referred. All right, as a, let's see, Mr. Manugian from Precinct 10 moves Article 26 for consideration, to see if the Saugus Town Meeting will vote to amend Chapter 17 of the Acts of 1947, also known as the Saugus Town Charter, to add Article 2, Section 6, a new paragraph which shall be identified as Section 6A, prohibitions, which will read as follows. No former member of the Board of Selectmen or School Committee shall hold any compensated appointed office, position, or employment that is directly appointed by the Board of Selectmen or School Committee for which a salary or other employment is payable from the town treasury until 18 months following the date of which the former member's term of office as established by this act on the Board of Selectmen or School Committee has terminated. Submitted by town meeting member Precinct 10, Peter Manugian. Do I have a second on Article 26? All right, moved and seconded. I know we have an amendment and we also have one correction. There was a spelling error in Article 26 that was caused by basically Google or, spell check. Ellen, I'm sorry, do you have the amendment?
Yeah, it's right here. If you want to have the tellers, hand it out.
Sure. If I could have the tellers hand this out for me? Everyone has a copy?
Can I have one? Wait a minute. You're not taking it.
Nope. Okay, so the amendment on Article 26 reads as follows. To add the words, petition the Massachusetts legislature after the word will in the first sentence, so that it will read, to see if Saugus Town Meeting will vote to petition the Massachusetts legislature to amend Chapter 17, and to further amend said article by removing the second use of the word employment and replacing it with the word emolument, so that the amended article will read as follows. To see if Saugus Town Meeting will vote to petition the Massachusetts legislature to amend Chapter 17 of the Acts of 1947, also known as the Saugus Town Charter, to add under Article 2, Section 6, a new paragraph which shall be identified as Section 6A, prohibitions, which shall read as follows. No former member of the Board of Selectmen or School Committee shall hold any compensated appointed position, office, position, or employment for which a salary or other emolument is payable from the town treasury that is directly appointed by the Board of Selectmen or School Committee until 18 months following the date on which the former member's full term of office as established by this act on the Board of Selectmen or School Committee has terminated. So, do we have a second on the amendment? All right, so the amendment is moved and seconded. So is there any discussion on that? Mr. Menugian.
Mr. Moderator, ladies and gentlemen, Peter Menugian, Town Meeting Precinct 10. The amendment is responsive to the suggestion by the Town Council to add the language to see if the Saugus Town Meeting will vote to petition the Massachusetts Legislature to amend Chapter 17. The second change is the word emolument. That was in the original petition as signed by registered voters, but apparently in the clerk's office, spell check changed emolument to employment. And so that's what the amendment does. I know we're talking just about the amendment right now and not the substance of the article, correct?
Yep.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the amendment? Okay, hearing none. All in favor of amending Article 26 to read as presented on the bottom half of the sheet you just received, adding see if the town meeting will petition the Massachusetts Legislature, and also correcting the spell check error on employment to emolument on the second case. Please signify by, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, the amendment has passed. Now, do we have any discussion on Article 26 as amended? Yes, Mr. Menugian.
You know, the town has made tremendous progress in the last, I guess it's 14 years, 13 years. And as you know, we're the only town in Massachusetts that does not have staggered elections. And that creates an opportunity for organized change that may not necessarily be in the best interest of the town. What this does is it says that anybody that runs for school committee or the Board of Selectmen will know that they will not be eligible to take a paid position or a position that provides an emolument, which is a benefit. It could be a car, it could be anything, that is appointed by that board or the school committee. And I know on the next to the last sentence there, people may look at the comma where I added "as established by this act." If you cover that and just, it would read full term of office on the Board of Selectmen School Committee, meaning that they can't, even if they quit after 2 months, then the term of office as established by the act would go to the next election. So it would still be 18 months after that next election. That's what it does. It's intended to institutionalize stability in the government, to prevent the chaos that I've seen exist, and you have too, I'm sure, when a member of a multi-member board uses that position to campaign for the office itself. So that's what it is. I'll answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Menugian. Further discussion on Article 26. Ms. Meredith.
Town Meeting Member, Precinct 2, Jeannie Meredith. Good evening, Mr. Moderator, Mr. Manager, Town Council, and fellow town meeting members. I rise in support of this Article 26, 28, where are we? 26, sorry. I have witnessed firsthand what chaos and turmoil that it causes when a board member or committee member runs for an office and then they want to go for a position. It really is, it creates a lot of chaos and turmoil. So I would support this article. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Meredith. Any further discussion on Article 26? Okay, seeing none, we'll call the question. All in favor of the article as amended to see if Saugus Town Meeting will vote to petition the Massachusetts Legislature to amend Chapter 17 of the Acts of 1947, also known as the Saugus Town Charter, to add under Article 2, Section 6, a new paragraph which shall be identified as Section 6A prohibitions, which shall read as follows. No former member of the Board of Selectmen or School Committee shall hold any compensated appointed office, position, or employment for which a salary or other emolument is payable from the town treasury that is directly appointed by the Board of Selectmen or School Committee until 18 months following the date on which the former member's full term of office, as established by this Act on the Board of Selectmen or School Committee, has terminated. All in favor of the article as presented and amended signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, hearing none. Article 26 as amended has passed. As a courtesy to Ms. Panetta, Ms. Shalkowski moves Article 27 for consideration. To see if the town will vote to amend the town bylaws by inserting the rail trail bylaw shown below in our town bylaws under public safety by adding a new section. 601.02 Rail Trail. Rail Trail Bylaw. 1. Definitions as used in this section. Number 1, multi-use trail shall mean a paved trail or pathway 8 feet wide or greater specifically created or designated for bicycle or pedestrian travel to the exclusion of autos and motorcycles, including the entire length and width of such trail or pathway, as well as landscaped or areas within or adjacent to such trails or pathways. 2, electric bicycle shall mean Class 1 and Class 2 electric bicycles as defined by Mass General Law, Chapter 90, subsection 1, with tire widths of 5 inches or less. Number 3, electric scooter shall mean a device that carries a passenger that has 2 to 4 wheels with diameters of 12 inches or less, is no wider than 2 feet nor longer than 6 feet, weighs less than 35 pounds, has a maximum speed of 15 miles per hour, and an electric motor with 300 watts or less of power. Moped shall have the same definition as a motorized bicycle under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 90, Section 1. Motorized scooter shall have the same definition as a motorized scooter under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 90, Section 1, with exception of an electric scooter as defined in this section. Motorized uniwheel shall mean any motorized device with a single wheel. Except as provided in this section, use of multi-use trails shall be limited to pedestrians, including joggers and runners, and devices designed for propulsion solely by muscular power, including bicycle riding, roller skating, inline skating, snowshoeing, and cross-country skiing. No person shall use or operate a motorized vehicle, moped, motorized scooter, or motorized uniwheel, or any other vehicle or device capable of motorized operation on a multi-use trail except an authorized maintenance vehicle, an emergency vehicle including police, fire, and emergency medical services, an electric-powered device no wider than 36 inches, designed specifically to provide low-speed indoor and outdoor mobility to a disabled individual, an electric bicycle, or an electric scooter. Unless permitted by the chief of police, no person shall use multi-use trails for horseback riding. Between dusk and dawn, trail users traveling on bicycles, electric bicycles, or electric scooters shall have both front and rear illumination. No one shall sit, congregate, or sleep on or along a multi-use trail between the hours of 9 p.m. and 7 a.m. Use of multi-use trails shall be subject to compliance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 85, subsection 11B, and all town ordinances, provided that, subject to compliance with all other ordinances relative to animal control, a user may be accompanied by no more than 3 dogs. Multi-use trails shall not be used for organized events unless permitted by the town manager. No user of a motorized vehicle or device or a vehicle capable of motorized operation shall operate such device at a speed exceeding 15 miles per hour on a multi-use trail, including users of electric bicycles and electric scooters. All users of motorized vehicles or devices or vehicles capable of motorized operation, including electric bicycles or electric scooters, shall yield to non-motorized trail users in all instances. Users operating devices designed for propulsion solely by human power shall yield to pedestrians, joggers, and runners. No person shall solicit, sell, rent, advertise, or offer to sell, rent, hawk, peddle, display, or distribute any goods, wares, tangible or intangible property, merchandise, liquids or edibles, or services for hire, or render any services for hire upon multi-use trails, unless licensed by the town upon such terms and conditions as said licensing authority deems appropriate. Violations of this ordinance shall be punished in a manner provided in Mass General Laws, Chapter 40, subsection 21D, in accordance with the following schedule of fines. First offense, $100. Second and subsequent offenses, $250. In addition to any other penalty provided by law, unauthorized vehicles, whether or not registered under Mass General Law, Chapter 90 or Mass General Law, Chapter 90B, may, in the discretion of a police officer, be towed and stored at the owner's expense. Any motorized vehicle is defined in General Laws, Chapter 90S, Chapter 90, Section 1, found in or upon a town of Saugus bicycle, path, or rail trail or associated area, unless specifically authorized, shall be subject to towing and storage upon the order and direction of a law enforcement officer in accordance with the provisions of General Laws, Chapter 266, Section 120D. Any motorized vehicle or vehicle capable of motorized operation not so identified by General Laws, Chapter 90, Section 1, shall be subject to removal by a law enforcement officer by towing and storage in a convenient location. Neither the town nor its chief of police or his designee shall be liable for any damages incurred during the removal or storage of any such vehicle removed under this section or in accordance with General Law, Chapter 266, Section 120D. And 12, all rail trail users shall stop at intersections and obey all regulatory signs and pavement markings. Do I have a second on Article 27? Article 27, moved and seconded. Any discussion? Ms. Panetta?
Good evening, Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Deborah Panetta, and I live at 1 Bellevue Street. I have always been a strong supporter of our rail trail, and I know that many of you and many of our residents enjoy it every day. However, we've had some issues on our trail, including motorized vehicles traveling very fast. The trail is supposed to be used for bicycles, joggers, skating, walkers, certainly not motorcycles or ATV vehicles. I've had several people reach out to me with concerns, including a town meeting member from Precinct 2, who attended a Board of Selectmen meeting to share his concerns and those of his neighbors. Considering this, I reached out to Steve Winslow, who's a counselor at large in Malden, and he also served as president for many years for Bike to the Sea. We spoke several times about how Malden was handling the bike trail and how their rail trail bylaw was working. After these discussions, I felt a bylaw sounded like it would be beneficial to our town, Saugus. So I reached out to Police Chief Riccadelli for his thoughts and his opinion. I shared with him Malden's bylaw and suggested some updates. He then did his own research, reaching out to other communities, and he updated the bylaw for Saugus. I then reached out to Town Council John Vassipoli, who stated that he spoke to Chief Riccadelli and that the bylaw that you have before you tonight, that was just written by our moderator, is fine as written. Preparing to address town meeting this evening, I reached out to the police chief last week, asking him again for his opinion of the rail trail bylaw, and if he thought it would be good for Saugus. I told him that I'd be reading his opinion to town meeting, which I'd like to do this evening. It reads, I'm writing this letter in support of the rail trail article that is coming before town meeting on Monday, May 13th, because I thought it was going to be last week. I think that it is very important to have rules in place that will keep our residents safe while they are utilizing the rail trail. The proposed rail trail bylaw is very similar to those that have already been passed in some of our surrounding communities. I spoke to several local police chiefs who have similar bylaws in place, and they all stated that the bylaw was a big help in keeping their rail trails safe and orderly. As a Saugus resident and someone who uses the rail trail on a regular basis, I can tell you that the use of motorized/electric bicycles and scooters on the rail trail have become problematic. It is that time of year again where we are getting ready to launch our bicycle patrol program that concentrates on rail trail safety. The proposed bylaw will give our bicycle patrol officers the authority that they need to keep the rail trail safe and orderly. Thank you, Chief of Police Michael Riccadelli. I believe that this bylaw is very important for the safety of the people using the rail trail, as well as people that live nearby our rail trail. I believe that this bylaw will add a layer of protection for our community. I thank you for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Panetta. Any further discussion on Article 27? Yes, Mr. Brown.
My name's Bill Brown, Precinct 6, and I rise tonight to support this article. I think it's a long overdue piece of legislation. Shortly before this meeting, my wife and I took our nightly walk down the trail, and we're almost run over by a young kid on a motorized bike. He was going way, way too fast, and we see it all the time. We are abutters to this. I've had my problems throughout the years with the trail, but I have come to accept it and actually enjoy it as long as the mosquitoes aren't out. I think that there are several problems, and I have a question here. I'm not sure, reading this, if I understand this right, are we going to ban electric scooters? The signs say that there's no motorized vehicles on it, and certainly an electric bicycle, an electric scooter, they're motorized. I'm not sure. Later on in this, it seems to indicate that it would be okay to use a scooter and a moped and the electric bikes that they have now. Also, I'm kind of curious, how are we going to enforce this? The police seem to be on board with this. Will there be speed limit signs and regular patrols by the police? I like the idea that this is going to be called a multi-use trail instead of a bike trail. We've had people on bicycles, one person in particular, who seems to think that that is a bike trail and anybody else on it should get the hell off of it. I don't understand that, but I see the people on there, and most people on there are enjoying it and having a nice walk, but there's certainly a group of people on there that don't do that. And I will support this. I just would like a little more clarification on that, that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Ms. Panetta?
Hi, good evening, Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to address the concerns from our previous speaker. Section 8 says no user of motorized vehicles or device or a vehicle capable of motorized operation shall operate such device at a speed exceeding 15 miles per hour on a multi-use trail, including uses of electric bicycles and electric scooters. I did talk with our town manager regarding getting some signage that says no more than 15 miles an hour tops. So that's answers, I believe, question number one. The second question was, how is it going to be enforced? In the letter that I read from the chief, he specifically says that it's the time of year that he's getting ready to launch the bicycle patrol program that concentrates on rail trail safety, and that this bylaw will give the bicycle, they're going to have bicycle patrol officers out there, and it's going to give them the authority that they need to keep the rail trail safe and orderly. So he's all set to get some patrol officers out there that are going to enforce this very bylaw. Did I answer everything? Great, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Panetta. Mr. Strasnick?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Rob Strasnick, Precinct 9. I see the wisdom in this. I just have a couple of questions for the maker and/or town council. In paragraph 6, it's limiting the number of dogs that can accompany a person to 3. I was curious what the reason for that was. And secondly, in paragraph 11, a due process question. In the 4th line down, in the areas that's being defined as an area of prohibition, the term is used are associated areas. Can someone tell me what an associated area is? And when I went and tried to compare that to the definition section, in the first paragraph in the previous page, it says landscaped or areas within or adjacent to such trails or pathways. Is that meant to be the definition of associated areas, or is something else that we should be aware of?
Thank you, Mr. Strasnick. Any further discussion on, yes, Mr. Grabowski?
Mr. Moderator, fellow town meeting members, Arthur Grabowski, Precinct 8. I just have one question. In reading this over, I didn't see any reference to snowmobiles. Are snowmobiles prohibited? Because I see them there whenever we have our first snowstorm. It's like a trail up in New Hampshire and Maine. There's countless snowmobiles going up and down that trail. So I was just questioning if snowmobiles are included.
Thank you, Mr. Grabowski.
Good evening, Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, ladies and gentlemen. Anything going over 15 miles an hour would be excluded. We don't have snowmobiles on it, like I said, we did take this from Malden. We could add snowmobiles to this, but if a snowmobile is going over 15 miles an hour, it would be prohibited. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Panetta. Any further? Yes. Mr. Camuso.
Good evening, Robert Camuso, Precinct 2. Hoping everybody supports this. Just a quick, I live in Eustace Street, and I only have about 30 feet of actual visual of bike trail crossing my street. If you remember last year, somebody in Malden was killed on a Vespa. Well, I almost hit him on Eustace Street and his partner, who I never saw. There was 2 of them. While I was giving my verbal signage to him, I never saw the second person, and he actually put his hand on my fender. Well, 45 minutes later, that first person was killed on Route 99 in Malden. This is the ability for Saugus to get a grasp on the rail trail. It's not going to fix all the problems, but it's a great start. And I'm hoping this body supports this 100%. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Camuso. Ms. Palumba.
Good evening, Town Moderator, Town Manager, Town Council, Town Meeting. I walk this trail every morning, Monday through Friday. It's a beautiful trail. If none of you have not walked, definitely go walk. And I love the speed limit. Because we always cringe. I walk with a friend of mine, and we always feel like we're going to get hit by one of those motorized bikes. So I love the speed limit, so I hope everyone does support this. I think the motorized are very dangerous. We always seem like we're going to get hit. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Palumba. Yes.
Darren Ring, Precinct 10. Just for the second to last speaker, the motorized vehicle, I believe the snowmobiles come under motorized vehicles. I've never seen an electric snowmobile, but I believe that would be covered. If I'm wrong, I would believe that a snowmobile would be covered under motorized vehicle. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ring. Any further discussion? Yes.
Good evening, Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, ladies and gentlemen. Mark Panetta, town meeting member, Precinct 5. It's about time that something was done there. I know that just coming here this evening, as we went through Ballard Street, the motorized scooters go right through it. They don't stop, they don't look, they just go right through it. It's about time. It's about giving our police department the tools they need to keep the community safe. No solution will be perfect, but this is a very good start, and I would hope that you would join me in supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Panetta. Further discussion? Yes, Mr. Palante.
Matthew Palante, Precinct 2. I am in support of this article. It is much needed. For someone who is on that rail trail daily, I see how many motorized scooters and bikes that almost hit people. I've watched mothers pushing carriages with their children be frightened by the bicycles and scooters passing them. I've seen numerous people almost get hit. My only concern about this article is in section 3, it has an electric bicycle or an electric scooter excluded from this. Now, I understand that there's a 15 mile an hour speed limit, but there really isn't a lot of patrolling on there. There is during the summer. I know that the police department does patrol, but 15 miles an hour for these scooters and electric bikes, you're able to modify them. And a bicycle or a scooter going 15 miles an hour, hitting a mother with a carriage is going to do damage. So why they're excluded is really it's my only question and concern of this article. I love this article, and I hate being up here suggesting any concerns because I do want to see this get passed. But I would like to see electric bicycles and electric scooters also not being permitted on that bike path. They're able to be modified, and they're just as dangerous for a pedestrian, a dog, a child, if it crashes into them. And I can't tell you how many I see on a daily basis flying down the bike path. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Palante. Any further discussion on Article 27? Mrs. Serino.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, ladies and gentlemen. I certainly support this. I know I'm out on the trail once in a while walking around, and I almost got run down myself, but at least this does give the police department the teeth that they need to enforce this, because what I like about this is they're able to confiscate the bike and, store it and charge the person money to get the bike back. And I'm sure once, even if it's a young kid, has to hit their parents up for money to get their bike out of storage, it might cut down on the traffic on the rail trail. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Serino. Any further discussion on Article 27? Yes, Mr. Davis. Yep. Okay. Yeah, that's right.
Glenn Davis, Precinct 4, town meeting member. Just want to, I'm putting in an amendment with the whatever his name is, Steve Doherty. I read over the town bylaws online, and it looks like we already have a section 601.02. So I'm just making an amendment that it'll be 601.03 rail trail. But I do support this article. I think it's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. So we have an amendment to just change the first line of this article. Instead of 601.02 rail trail, it would read 601.03 rail trail. Do I have a second on the amendment? All right, moved and seconded. Any discussion on the amendment? Okay, hearing none. All in favor of amending the article to read? If you would, come up to the podium, just so the folks at home can get in on the discussion.
I could be completely wrong with this, but I think the original article is to amend 601.02.
Not the way I'm reading it. It says in our town bylaws by adding a new section, 601.02.
Okay. All right. I just read it as to see if the town will vote to amend the town bylaws by
It
inserting.
is amending the bylaws,
All right.
but by
Fair
adding a
enough.
section, in this case, where 601.02 already exists, the motion is to call it 601.03.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any further discussion on the amendment? All right, hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor of amending Article 27 to read 601.03 rail trail at the beginning, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, the amendment has passed. Any further discussion on Article 27 as amended? Okay, hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor of Article 27, to see if the town will vote to amend the town bylaws by inserting the rail trail bylaw into our town bylaws under public safety by adding a new section 601.03 rail trail as presented moments ago, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, the amended Article 27 has passed. With that, we have gone through everything that we have available to us this evening. We're not going to come back next week because it's Memorial Day. So if you enjoy your cookouts and please remember those that paid the ultimate sacrifice to give us that holiday. And we'll resume back here on June 3rd to take up the zoning articles and to revisit Article 23. With that, I would entertain a motion to suspend the meeting. All right, suspended until June 3rd. Thank you, guys. We'll see you then.